It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show.
The only show about Latinos for Latinos. And did we mention Latinos?
It's the Latísima.
Latinos come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. You don't have to be Latino to enjoy chips and salsa.
People love chips and salsa.
Guess what, boys and girls, chipsters, chipsteras, and chipsteros? It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show in New Mexico. My name is Alice Lara, back from Oklahoma last week, and here with my partner in podcast crime is...
Zeke Rodriguez.
I like
That's the first time I ever said that.
Okay, the Zeke, or I like to call it Zeke.
Maybe the last time.
Maybe the last time.
We have a great guest that we're going to get to in just a minute here. We are welcoming the beautiful and lovely Sarah Smith. Thank you for coming today.
The angelic Sarah Smith.
Oh, what?
I'm just kidding.
You know, we've talked so much about you. Our audience already probably knows you, but I'm going to just use her main titles, which, for today's purposes, she's Vice President of the CCIA, which is the Coalition of Conservatives in Action, and then she's also New Mexico Freedoms Alliance, and we have plenty to talk about. But real quick, I'm just going to take the microphone here, and I want to give a shout out to T-Rise. That's where we did this wedding with for my great niece Amanda, who is Amanda and Jose Cabrera. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. And T-Rise is outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Beautiful storybook venue. It was such a blast with family. So if you want to check it out, I think they're probably booked for the next 6 months. It's so great. But everything's there. The chapel, they stayed in the bunkhouse, what they call them, and the reception area. It was fantastic. So thank you very much. We had a great time. Appreciate it, Moon Show. And thanks for a great show last week, too. If you guys missed and didn't watch the podcast, Zeke had. He had Henry Young, who is the county Republican chairman here in Doña Ana County. Great job.
Yep.
And then also the other gentleman.
David Tapia, Mr. David Tapia. And that was it was actually a really good show because that Henry Young had talked about Marxism, and I posted it on my TikTok because I liked it. I really enjoyed his little lesson that he gave us. And that was the most viral video I ever posted, and I got banned permanently on TikTok for posting it as well. So
Badge of honor, dude.
it was awesome. It got 100, it almost got 200 likes and 2,000 views within a couple hours. So that means it was going to go. You know, it was going to get to 10, 20, who knows. You know, it was going. And so, yeah, they banned me permanently from TikTok for it. And all Henry said was that... you know, what they're doing with the universities and the Palestinian protesters, and you know, they're having the students go against their own countries. That's been done over and over again in countries around the world via Marxism.
And that's what they banned you for? Do they explain that to you?
Nah, they just, you know, I tried to open my TikTok and say, you've been permanently banned. And then they give you an option to download all your content one last time, and if you say no, then you're done. And that's it. I mean, it was cool. To me, it was a throwaway account anyway. I didn't have much postings. I made that TikTok account just so I can see how far I can push it. So that's exactly what I made it for. And so now I know how far to push it.
Wow.
Interestingly enough, Facebook and Instagram didn't do a thing. Although it was a very good video on TikTok, on Instagram, it didn't really get much traction. So I wonder if they kind of shadow banned it.
Yeah, that's how Facebook does it.
Right? Mm-hmm. You know, but yeah, good show if you guys want to check it out.
It was good.
Thank you, Alice.
Great job, really. So, you know what, since we're talking about that, let's go ahead and we'll start. We're going to have a lot of local issues because Sarah is so up to date on everything. But one thing that happened while I was gone, evidently, at New Mexico State University, that's my alma mater. It's yours too, both of yours?
Yeah.
We're all Aggies.
Nice.
And, you know, and
that's why we're so awesome.
They had a problem there. So you guys, let me know what happened. I saw a little bit of that clip.
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
Yeah, there had been an encampment that was allowed on the campus by the president the week before that, and then they had a sit-in last week.
So they actually had permission from the president of NMC?
I don't know that permission is the right word, but they weren't making them leave.
Right.
Yeah.
It fell on the president to make a decision if they want to kick him off or not. The president kind of was like, just let him. And that was probably a mistake.
I think so. It seems like it emboldened them because then they had a sit-in at Hadley Hall and refused to leave when it was time to close the building.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty awesome. I mean, I think the cops did a great job. Threw his ass down. I mean, it was all legal and tactical, but I mean...
Well, they were resisting arrest. That's the thing. I mean, it's, you know, people try to say, oh, it's a peaceful protest. Then how did a window get broken? How did somebody get charged with a felony battery against an officer?
Trespassing is trespassing.
I saw they were like pounding windows, one picture that I saw or something, and that's, like you say, that's not a peaceful protest. So they
they were yelling really loud, screaming, similar to what they did at City Council last week. It was the same people.
I was going to ask
you, the same people? Are they from here? Is a question.
Some of them were the same people. I recognize them because it's City Council.
Are they from here though?
I don't know. The news coverage said 10 of those arrested were students.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
The statistics that they're saying now, there's some report that I read, about 40% of the people that are doing this are not actually students.
That's what I'm saying.
That's how it was at UNM. The arrests at UNM, most of them weren't even students.
I feel like they're ringers, you know? Because most people around here, first of all, don't have the energy to go out and do that kind of stuff. You know, they might have the energy if you pay them.
Right.
And probably getting paid.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't see anybody being philosophically inspired to promote this agenda. You know what I mean? I just don't see that fire.
No.
So are those protests they're not happening anymore? Do we know an update at the university?
I guess we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty surprised last week at City Council with how vehement the protesting was. I mean, they were screaming. They basically wouldn't leave. They were disrupting the meeting until the police told them they had to go. And that was just from removing the ceasefire resolution from the City Council agenda, which was a pro-Palestinian resolution.
And let's talk about that for a second, because I'm sorry to not be up on things, but I was gone, so that's my excuse. So I understand when they did that, only Councilwoman Coran and Bencomo were the only ones who said, okay, yes, I agree with it. And the others
they wanted
not,
to
right?
keep it on the agenda, and the other 5 all voted to remove it from the agenda. And that's when the protesters got up and they went to the back of the auditorium, and then they started screaming. They were pointing at Councilor McClure saying, "Councilor McClure, you support genocide!" Then they were all screaming, and they wouldn't stop, and they had to be told to leave. And on the way out, one of the CCIA members actually was sitting up there. She has mobility issues, and she was with her walker. One of them knocked her glasses off her head on the way out and grabbed her glasses. She had to go out and try to get them from him.
Are you kidding me?
No. And then they were out there screaming, disrupting the meeting so nobody could hear anything.
No.
Yeah, nice peaceful protest, right?
Yeah.
Wow, is she okay?
Yeah, she's okay. She was a little shaken up, though.
Oh yeah, who wouldn't be? I'd have been
Yeah.
freaking pissed. Touching my face? That's a tough one.
If it was a
That's
guy.
assault.
Yeah,
That's assault.
yeah. You would have
If it was
justification to defend yourself, you know, or you know.
Do they have security there now at the meetings?
Well, there were a bunch of LCPD there on site that day because
Right.
there was a certain agenda item that they were there for. So I don't know how it would have went if they weren't there. It was pretty interesting to see how it went. And what I think is really ironic is these same counselors have been saying violence. They've complained so much about anything that CCIA has done. Anybody who doesn't agree with them, they basically accuse them of violence, even if all they did was say, "Hey, it's your fault, I'm having crime." But this happened and they didn't say a word.
No.
Nothing.
It's a mind game, and that's just funny. Because for me, in these situations, like I think they want to provoke us to be the violent side, and like for me, if I'm in that kind of situation, I'll be the Gandhi. You can punch me in the face all you want, really. You can drag me, because I don't want to even be close to casting a stone, because they're gonna. We already know how they're gonna treat us. So it's always the ones that's us that are being peaceful, being mindful of our P's and Q's, because we know how they are. And so, you know, I just feel like they're just trying to incite it. They're trying to incite violence. They accuse, I mean, real quick, we can go like, you know, with the whole thing with Gabe Duran. He's running for state representative. They accuse Sarah of being an LGBTQ operative. CCIA is this like radical group and like this, you know, so they basically accuse us of what they are. We're not the ones that are violent.
That's their MO, you're right.
I would say we're extremely peaceful group. You know, I would go so
and
far
they
as
just
to say
straight
that.
up lie.
Yeah.
I mean, operative? How am I an operative? Nobody has ever paid me or told me what to do.
I didn't even know that operative would imply getting paid, but that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they just totally lie. And they said I was anti-LGBTQ. Totally not true.
Not true.
No,
But-
anybody that really knows you. And then they also said that the CCIA endorsed him. We don't endorse.
We don't
That
endorse
organization
anybody.
doesn't endorse candidates. We'll even let you post things, and I try to remind people, we do not endorse candidates.
And look, I know Gabe personally, like, and I try to talk him out of running as a Democrat. He's been a Democrat as well. I was like, look, bro, it's a good time to be a Republican right now. You know what I mean? And he said, no, I'm a diehard Democrat. I'm going to run as a Democrat. It is what it is. We don't agree on everything at all. He's a Democrat, I'm a Republican, but we're still friends. We grew up together, and I still support him. Are we, you know, we're not politically identical almost at all. On the community, we agree. So I would vote for him if he was in my district. It's just common sense.
Yeah.
You know, it has nothing to do with being radical or him being far right. It's just he's a good guy running for office that's being a traditional Democrat in the way he was raised. That's it.
So if the far left progressives, they're anti him. So there are other candidates. Are there any Republicans running?
No, it's a primary with him and Angelica Rubio, who is a far left radical
She's
progressive.
the incumbent, right?
Yep.
She's in there already.
And I would love to have her on the show and have a debate, but we all know these people don't want to get on the show. They don't want to debate nobody. ever, So meanwhile, Gabe he'll defend his positions as a Democrat. And I know Democrats that would come on the show, but see, they're not on that far left. The far left progressives will never go out in public.
It's like a whole different category.
It's a different category. And so that's all they're highlighting with that. But I just wanted to bring that up real quick because poor Sarah, she's like the freaking dartboard over here.
I ain't scared.
No, you're not.
You have been in the limelight a little bit, so they think, oh, okay, we can attack her. And
I think it's interesting that it was only
honor.
a paid ad. So
Right.
I can't find it necessarily.
You can't
but
find
people
it.
keep sending it to me because they're seeing it on Facebook. It pops up these lies and smears.
So shady.
It is.
Golly.
It is. But honestly, it needs to get reported if there's a way to do that.
It's slander for sure.
It is. And it's lies. I mean, the whole thing
It's
is
libel,
lies. It's
slander,
not true.
defamation. It
But
should
what
be illegal.
what it actually goes to show is that they are scared
Right.
of Dudon.
They're threatened.
Because
Exactly.
Rubio's voting record speaks for itself.
Right.
She voted to increase gas prices up to 50 cents a gallon.
That in itself.
She
I don't like it.
voted
Lots of political
to
ammo
increase
there.
taxes for all the businesses. She voted to allow transgender health care for children without parental consent. So, I mean,
Nobody
those
likes
things,
that.
No.
Nobody. I don't care what political party you are. 90% of everybody hates that.
They're probably going to watch this podcast, and then there's, oh, look at what Sarah said, and what you said. Everything is factual.
Just her voting record. All you have to do is go look.
And that's why they're attacking you, Sarah, because you're super solid. Everyone around the state knows who you are. You've done your work. You've done all of the grassroots that you can possibly freaking do. You've invented your own wheel, basically, as far as grassroots movements are concerned. And you're solid. You stick to the facts.
Well, I used to be an engineer.
Well,
So it always comes down to data.
she's precise, precisely truthful. And that's really what they're threatened by, is the truth, right? That's what it boils down to at the end of the day. The truth is a sword, and it's also a shield, and she's armed to the teeth with that truth.
So I'm going to take a minute here, and if you've been watching our show at all in the last month or two, we mention you quite frequently because Sarah is an advocate for children's and parental rights, I'm going to say. She's been there whenever there's these, she's brought the books. I'm so excited about it. They also, she's a book banner. She's a book, which it's not true at all. But she's into that. She's up on the latest. She homeschools her kids. Amazing.
Love it.
And, being the VP of CCIA, she just, if there's anything magical. Plus, we're going to talk about the referendums, too, which is a political process, and we'll give you the update on New Mexico. But I don't know how she does it. She's superwoman. I don't know what kind of drugs you take to do this. But and on top of that, okay, she's very natural. She's like a holistic.
She's pretty secular, too.
Well, I'm a natural health care practitioner.
Right,
I mean,
okay.
that's what I do right now.
I don't want to get the title wrong.
Yeah. Well, really what it is, I hate politics. I don't want to be doing any of this stuff. Really. It's exhausting. But at the end of the day, right now, this country is hanging on a precipice. And what's going to happen? What are the kids going to have? What are the grandkids going to have? If we don't fix things now, everything is about to completely fall apart.
Yeah.
So that's really the only thing
I couldn't
that's
agree
driving
more.
me.
I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely, and that's a big reason why we do the show too. I really feel like there's still a chance. I know some people don't think that. There are some people that are like, oh, crazy, Alice. What do you do all this stuff for? But you know what? I ain't going down without a fight.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're so excited to have you on the show because with so many things to talk about, and we're trying to think, okay, where do we start? Should we just start with the books? Because here's the thing too, and I want to remind you.
Let's do it.
You might be watching us from, I got a lot of people from Arizona still that watch the show all over the country. These issues are in everybody's community, unfortunately, anymore. So if you're thinking, well, that's Las Cruces, New Mexico, that's okay because there's similarities if you look for them in your own community, I guarantee it. So give us the latest update, and maybe just a quick one. Pretend this is the first time they're watching the show.
Sure. Okay, so there are sexually explicit books in school libraries, and that's happening all over the country. And I'm not talking about sex ed books. We're talking about pornographic, sexually explicit books. And this is, these ones in particular are here in Las Cruces. They're in El Paso too. I mean, I'm looking at the school libraries. They're in Albuquerque. They're in Gallup.
These are nationwide. They're nationwide.
Yeah, so this issue is not a local issue by any stretch of the imagination. And it's very interesting to see what happens. People are calling me a book banner, me and Juan. Juan's my kind of partner in crime on this one, on trying to challenge the local district to clean up their act. That's really all we're asking them to do. Clean up your act. Make sure that the stuff that's in your library is age appropriate. That's not book banning. Would you say not allowing Penthouse in a school is banning? No, you would just say that's not appropriate. It shouldn't be there.
Right.
And it's the same deal with these books.
It's always example. One of these meetings, I'm waiting for someone to come up with a stack of Playboys or Penthouse and say, okay, here, I brought these to donate for the library, and just give it personally to the school board and see if they would take it. And that probably is light compared to some of the stuff you've read in these books.
It is. And, they have the internet controlled at schools, so they can't access porn, right?
That's got to be a huge
But
freaking
then
firewall.
it's right in these books. I mean, this particular book right here is adult erotic fiction. It's not even sold for kids. This is a TikTok sensation, so, talk about TikTok directing people where they don't need to be.
And we're on YouTube, guys. I'm going to read some of this because I've always wanted to, and not because I'm trying to, whatever, but because I think people need to know what the hell's going on.
Because you don't understand the issue unless you actually hear
You've got to look,
words.
like, it looks innocent enough. Like, you look at it, and it's like a, mask, what do they call it in Italy? Those, those crazy, like, Italian masks that they wear, Carnival masks. And it just looks so innocent. Sarah Moss, all right, that's pretty cool. And I even read the back. It doesn't even allude to anything sexual until you get to the very bottom. Then it's at the very bottom. It says a shimmering erotic romance that probes vulnerability and grief. That's all you get on the back. So to me, I'm like, well, this isn't that bad of a book. I even told Sarah, I was like, this couldn't be that bad. She's like, oh yeah, open it up. And so she's got this section highlighted. And, I know there's some listeners out there that don't like cuss words, so I will censor a little bit. So it says,
I'll just say,
Cassian effed her mouth.
Hang on a second. If there are any kids watching, or if you're watching with
It's not
with
for
your
kids.
this is a time to just pause it and watch it later.
Yeah, it's for adults.
Yeah. True.
And we identify the shows for adults too on YouTube. So Cassian effed her mouth, and her moaning had him deciding he'd F the rest of her too. Strip those pants off her and drive her into so hard she'd be screaming his name to the ceiling. That's all I got to read. That's all I got. You want your 15-year-old reading that?
Right.
And
this book is listed in the school library for Sierra Middle School.
Oh, your 11-year-old? You want your 11-year-old kid
The youngest
reading
11
that?
in middle school? Is that what it is?
I mean, it's listed as lost there. What does lost mean? It probably means somebody either took it off the shelf without checking it out, maybe kept it, never turned it in. This series is super popular. Like I said, it's a TikTok sensation. So when I look at the school libraries, this whole series, there's 5 of these books, they're checked out frequently.
What?
Yeah.
Why are people reading this stuff? I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't know. If you guys are into this, I don't mean to offend you, but this is like, there's way more important things to do, like combating bad books in school, like talking about the open borders,
And adults, do your thing.
Even then, it's kind of a waste of time, but go ahead.
Sure, but why should a taxpayer-funded school provide this kind of reading material to a kid?
Unacceptable.
That's the thing.
Why is that necessary? And especially because we always make the point, New Mexico, we're dead last in education. This
These
is
kids
so
can't even read this book.
embarrassing. Yeah,
They can't even read it.
And what you read is not that's the worst probably.
There's
the book,
way
right?
more in there, but but some of the justification they will use is things like, well, if it gets kids reading, and it's like, are you freaking kidding me? If it gets kids reading,
wow.
Read Harry Potter.
Or they'll say, well, they like reading it, and it's like, yeah, they like a lot of things
That's
that aren't
not
good for them.
good.
That's kind of the point.
If they're into sex that young, that's not good.
Yeah.
It's basically child psychological abuse, sexual abuse on this kid's psyche. They don't need to be introduced to this stuff. It's destroying their innocence. It's making them promiscuous way too young. I mean, it's just spiritually damaging these children.
Right.
Male or female, doesn't matter. You shouldn't be out there throwing your body around. You shouldn't be normalizing sex to these kids. It's just not right. I think everybody inherently knows that.
Right.
Sarah, and then, I also the argument they use is, well, the kids out there, they're going to see it. They already know about all this stuff. And I admit that's probably true because that's our world today.
Mm-hmm.
It can't stay away from it. Why would you want to encourage and make it easier for them? And then in an adult, your teachers, your school, it's sanctioning. And to me, like when I was back in my day when I was in school, your teachers and your that was authoritarian. You thought, okay, well, if they say it's okay, then I guess it's fine.
Right. Well, another thing is that parents who are engaged are actively trying to prevent their kids from accessing porn on the internet and other places. They don't think about doing it for the school library. It would never occur to them that they need to. I mean, this other book, this one here, Choke, this is also, it's sold for adults. This one is about this guy who goes to sexual addiction groups to pick up chicks. And he has sex with them. There's all kinds of weird descriptions in here about having sex with animals and gear shifts and whatever, like all kinds of bizarre stuff. This one is in Las Cruces High School. And it's just, it boggles the mind whoever would have decided to put this in a school.
It's a lower frequency thing, you know, focusing on basic pleasures of the body. It's really just devalues someone's spiritual expression. You don't want to be in that mindset. You want to be in the mindset of gratitude, of love, of forgiveness. Those are the higher minded types of mind frames that build societies, that make, you know, communities great. So when they drive down the frequency with this stuff to our children and therefore the families, because the families, it emanates throughout, you know, whoever's in that lower frequency mindset, it really starts to devolve society. And what are we experiencing right now? A devolved society, because everyone's focused on this lower frequency stuff. It's like sexual stuff. It's like, come on, man. Like we gotta rise above that at a certain degree. It's not that important. In fact, it's very bad for people to just focusing all their energy on sex all day, every day, especially the kids. I mean, for crying out loud.
Sarah, I wanted to ask you, so what is the process if they've allowed you to know what it is? Someone decides, every school has their own library. I know that these books too, they say, well, these are okayed by the American Library Association. But what is the process that they go through to say, okay, we're going to put this book in Sierra Middle School? Do you know?
So what we found out when we filed our first book challenge was that the librarians don't actually know what's in the books that are on the shelf. So they are, by and large, choosing books off of a list of approved books from the American Library Association and the School Library Journal. And so, and we know about those organizations.
Yes.
The American Library Association was pretty much all over the news in the last few months because the person who was leading it was said, hey, whoever thought a lesbian Marxist would be the leader of the American Library Association? So some states like Montana have actually removed their libraries from the American Library Association. So that's where these lists are coming from in the first place. The librarians here, by and large, don't know what's in the books.
They don't have any control.
Yeah, they just say, oh, it's on an approved list. Oh, look, it won a lot of awards. And then from there, they just get it approved and they stick it in the library. And so nobody had ever the librarian had never looked at this book when we filed the complaint on it. She sure vehemently defended having it in the library when we challenged it officially with all kinds of reasons and to be clear, so this book, the best I can tell, part of the reason they were so vehement about defending it is because it's about gay characters. And it was like, you're attacking gays. Really? Why do you think a school library book needs to have descriptions about kids using double-headed dildos? That's in here.
Wow.
But they went on this whole thing about supporting the LGBTQ youth and how horrible it would be to make sure they didn't have access to these kinds of books. And it's like, what? I don't think that the parents of LGBTQ youth want their kids to be sluts either.
It's
and that's
grooming.
the thing in here. Good slut. How to be a good slut.
They're grooming. They're grooming children.
Yeah.
It's child grooming.
It is grooming.
You're enabling sexual contact with older adults like it is in that book, right?
Yeah, this one has a scene. This kid, he's 17. He goes on Grindr and solicits sex from adults. And there's a pretty detailed scene in here of him having bondage sex with an overage adult.
I don't even know what bondage sex is. I don't want to know.
Well, yeah. Tying you up.
Okay.
You know.
Didn't want to know that, but
choking,
that's fine.
That
These
kind
are all
of stuff.
minors.
At
17
17.
years is still a
At
minor.
17.
I didn't even know. I'm freaking 38, and I didn't know what that meant. All right. So these
You
poor.
need to get out more. I'm just
Well,
kidding.
maybe not, Sarah.
I need to read more. No.
Give me that book. Well, I mean, that's like, I don't know. It's weird. I mean, that's what trips me out is like they're already, when you're that young, you're already freaking hormonally driven like crazy. Trust me.
Sure.
I get it. You're freaking crazy. The last thing you want to do is guide these kids into these really dark expressions of, you should be pushing them to find a girl you want to get married to, you want to have kids with. Channel that sexual energy. Transmutate it is the actual real word. Transmutate that sexual energy into something positive. This is a hell. So
Well, this one too, they said, well, they use condoms, so they're teaching safe sex. And then they get blackout drunk in this book. They're smoking pot. The kid doesn't know if he had sex the night before. He's having to check.
And I'm sure
Gay
these
sex.
are all things parents
Gay
want
sex.
their kids to do. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure. You know, it's just freaks me out.
But
still.
the whole school board voted to keep this book in the school,
That's true. It was.
including the conservative. She said, I read this book and my mind was opened.
At first she
To
was.
the
At first she was
Tinder
against it,
things.
right? At first.
Yeah, when she heard the quotes. So now they're trying to say, oh, well, you just can't pull quotes out of context like that. It's like, really? Double-headed dildos. I
don't know.
Why should that be in any book in the school library?
I just think that the idea that a Marxist LGBTQ lesbian at the top of the American Library Association, right? And the BLM, the leader of the BLM organization, who caused billions of dollars in damage, you know, and several, I think, officers were killed as well in their riots. Mm-hmm. There's a common denominator here, right? It's the Marxism. It's that philosophy. It's very, very evil when you break it down. It's never worked, and that's what these kids are learning in universities. That's what they're very outwardly proud of teaching this Marxist ideology, which has dark history behind it, just like the feminist movement. Feminist philosophy is very dark. If you look, it's not some proud, woman who wanted equal working rights. It's some dark, like, witchcraft stuff that's really behind the women's rights movement from back in the day. Most women were against women voting, and I'm not trying to say I think women should vote. I love women. You girls are freaking awesome. But if you really look back at the women's suffrage, most women who were against women voting were women.
It was a time too.
Yeah.
So it's like, but because they knew that there was a darker agenda behind it. It wasn't just about women being able to vote. It was like, if you start opening this door, this slippery slope, you're gonna see it spill into society. And look at what we got now. We've got women, lesbian, LGBTQ women pushing this sexual stuff on our kids. And I'm not saying it's a woman thing. I'm just saying, like, there's darker philosophies behind these movements that people need to be awakened to.
Well, and the thing is, they always go after the kids.
That's the main thing.
That's how they do it.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the Cultural Revolution in China, that's exactly what they did. They taught the kids to report on their parents. They were having these tribunals where they were...
China?
Yeah. Cultural Revolution in China with
Really?
Mao. Yeah.
When was it? Oh, with Mao. Okay.
Yep. So they got the kids. They were called the Red Guard, and they recruited them, and they were having them report on their parents. They were having them... The kids were running these tribunals with their teachers beating the teachers. Yes. In public.
Oh,
the
that
whole
makes
thing
so
was
much
insane.
sense. I've heard about this, but I'm glad you're enlightening me more. Can you go into
history.
more of that, please? I mean, what year was this?
It was in the mid-1900s. So the book Wild Swans is a really good book. It's about 3 generations of women growing up in China, going through the whole Cultural Revolution, watching what happened. And you're hearing it first person from somebody who's like, yeah, I was part of the Red Guard. Yeah, my dad was one of the people that was getting reported on. Yeah, they were beating the adults in public. So they were basically militarizing all of these youth.
So it's basically like the Chinese version of Solzhenitsyn and the Gulag
yeah.
archipelago, basically.
Yep.
Wow, that is freaking insane. So they're using the kids, because they're doing that now. They're letting the kids determine,
It's the direction.
You can sue your parents. You can divorce your parents when you're 12. I mean, it's LGBTQ.
It's like the playbook.
They can engage in
playbook.
child mutilation and sexual mutilation. We talked about that before.
Yeah.
Remember, kids can engage in self-genital mutilation now. Can't talk to it.
Mutilation.
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 Zation sounds better, but it's
Well,
probably not
choose
right.
whatever you want to say.
You
have
can
freedom of
cut your
speech here,
genitals
buddy.
off as a kid now without your parents' consent. It's disgusting. And we
Right.
used to lambast.
And they might take your kids away from you in certain states if you don't
allow them.
allow them to do it.
You're
Yeah.
denying them.
Yeah. Like California.
Alice brought up a great point. We were talking about this over the weekend, where the women's rights activists used to be really against the genital mutilation of women in Africa. They would cut off their clitoris. The Muslims would, and that was like the biggest thing. Like women's suffrage is like a huge thing. But when it comes to a 9-year-old woman or a 9-year-old girl, a 9-year-old boy doing it to himself, where are they at now? Where are the women's rights activists then?
Right.
Bizarre.
It's very scary. And, we were doing some door knocking for a candidate. It was for Julia Reese, who was running for the school board. And parents, there's still so many, they don't know. They're so busy working, they have no idea. So I urge you, if you're watching this and you know somebody that has small kids, or anybody, let them know about it, because this is happening in schools. I do have another question.
Yeah, I mean, they're not... What's happening in the schools is they're basically normalizing it, right? So the teachers are routinely asking kids what pronouns they want to use.
Don't tell me that.
They are. And there's rainbow libraries in schools here in Las Cruces. These are provided by GLSEN, which is a pro-LGBTQ pushing organization. They will give rainbow libraries to any teacher that wants one in their classroom.
So
and we have them
all
here.
These books, you just donate them?
They're
and make them available?
donated to the classroom. I have, a parent sent me a copy of an email from a first grade teacher at East Picacho Elementary School who's saying, hey teachers, I love my rainbow library. My kids love it. You should get one for your class too. So it's not that the school is doing the surgeries, but what they're doing is they're basically opening this huge can of worms. And the kids are all confused and they don't know what the heck's going on, because now, you were Stacy, but now you're Steve.
Yeah.
And we're going to call you that name.
And it's perfectly fine and encouraged. I feel like it's encouraged as well. I want to ask you, if so let's say I was principal of the school, could I just go in there and say, you know what, I don't want this in my school? Do they have that authority, or does it depend on the school itself?
I don't know. I don't know if the principal can do that or not.
because man, it just seems like there's plenty of blame to go around here. And the one thing too, I was in Phoenix last December, and it was a Turning Point USA event, and I got to interview. It was Gays Against Groomers. So the president happened to be a lesbian gal, and then the other was a transgender. And they were both, so they said, this is just wrong. It's not good for the kids. And agreed with the word abusive. It's abusive to the kids. So it's not just, they can't just put you in one little segment.
Right.
It's a big fight, and everybody needs to be aware of what's going on there.
Right. And the transgender agenda that's being pushed, if you look at which kids are actually coming out as transgender, it's kids who have much higher rates of mental health problems, autism, social issues, and they're depressed. They maybe feel like misfits. They don't have very many friends. They don't really know what to do. They feel distress, and they go on TikTok or wherever, and they see, oh, someone else felt like me, and they were just born in the wrong body. And so they grab onto this as like a solution, like, oh, this could save me. I could be better. And so they start going down that path.
That's so sad.
And 4 out of 5 of them grow out of it. We know that at this point. 4 out of 5 are going to grow out, and a lot of them end up being gay. So, the Gays Against Groomers, I think that's a great organization. And the bad effects of this are going to be affecting gays more than anyone else. They're going to be affecting autistic people more than anybody else. So all these bad health consequences which come with the transgender treatment, and that includes sexual dysfunction, never being able to have pleasure from
suicide,
sex, sterilization, obviously, not being able to breastfeed your baby if you had your breast removed. But there's a bunch of other things from the cross-sex hormones. They increase your risk of blood clots and heart problems and osteoporosis, and there's all these downstream effects. Like, these people are going to be sick.
Being gay is one thing, whatever. There's always been 10% or a good chunk of the population that's been gay. It's
right.
To me, that's not big of a deal. So when you start pushing these transgender kids to actually do the procedure, and I always go back to suicide rate. It's tremendous with this kid. Like, it's way over 50% now.
Well, they threaten the parents though, because they'll tell the parents, you can have a transgender son or a dead daughter, because their suicide rate is so much higher. But the thing is, the transgender treatment doesn't reduce their suicide rate.
That's what increases it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the people who buy into it and decide they are transgender, they already are suicidal. They already have mental health problems.
There's already ideation.
And those problems don't go away.
Right. It's not addressed properly. Mm-mm. So, I mean, there's a lot of money in this abusing children thing. These operations that these kids are incurring with the surgery. It's expensive to do that. I'm sure these doctors are making hand over fist with it. And then you're talking about abortion, where there's organizations that will pay for the abortion completely, right? Mm-hmm. If you opt to do it, they'll pay for it. And then you got these books in those libraries. Who's paying for these books to abuse these children's minds?
Yep.
So look at all that money that's behind going after these kids.
Yeah.
Big money too. This is national. These books go national. That's big money. So there's some ominous group or segment of our population in this world that are pushing this stuff on our kids and getting paid handsomely to do it. So,
well, and our state was totally with it. I mean, that's the thing with the laws that got passed last year. HB 7 allows children to access abortion or transgender care without parental consent.
Wow.
That was passed by our state legislature. That was passed by Rubio, who we talked about earlier. Most of our state reps passed that bill, and it even fines school nurses or teachers $5,000 if they interfere with access to care.
And people do not believe you when you tell them that's an actual law. Again, the uninformed person. You took me right where I wanted to go, and we got. We're going to transition into another little topic, kind of. But before we do that, I always like to give Zeke a minute to talk about our favorite magazine.
Yeah, Flavors of the Desert.
Flavors of the Desert.
Flavors of the Desert. Freaking amazing organization that gets your food truck, your restaurant out and about on social media. They get thousands and thousands of views, and they have a really good base already. So if you got a food truck, if you got some restaurant, inclinations down here in the southern state of New Mexico, hit them up, Flavors of the Desert. They will take care of all of your marketing and advertising needs. Why not? It's a win-win situation. You get out there on social media, you let everybody know about how delicious your food is. The advertising company makes a little bit of money. Everybody knows who you are. You get to embolden the food culture of southern New Mexico even further. So hit them up, Flavors of the Desert, guys. I don't have a copy of the magazine on me, but trust me, that's an organization you want to get a hold of if you got a restaurant down here in southern New Mexico. Thank you for that, Alice.
Awesome. You bet. And that's by our own Joey and Haley Garza, who they are the ones, they take care of us here. That's where we record this show at Oregon Mountain Productions. And if you want to do something like we're doing also, please do. And on that note too, I do want to go ahead and plug Juan Garcia, who is the chairman of the Coalition of Conservatives in Action, and Sarah, they do a podcast. You guys, you do it like at least every week?
Yeah, we do once a week on Spoken Words New Mexico.
Good deal. So if they want to
just a short, 10 to 15 minute, what's going on in the community type of thing.
Good. It's well done. It's good, short and sweet. And these guys know so much about it. They're like the experts in the field out there. But
well, the more you start looking at what's happening, the more you realize everything is broken.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
It's not even an understatement.
And it's really, it's really until we understand the amount of evil that we're enabling it. We're letting it so tell me you're in New Mexico without being in New Mexico. You look at a billboard in Albuquerque as you're driving in and you see a big old sign that shows missing people from the reservation. Call this number if you know where these people are. Like, there's constantly people on the native reservations in the state that come up missing. It's a big problem.
So
it's becoming more common now. Today I talked to someone who's running for office in Albuquerque a couple of days ago, and it's becoming unbelievably sad. People's kids will just end up missing. People's moms, people's sisters, brothers, they don't know where the hell they went. They're just gone forever. Wow. And then tell me you're in New Mexico without, saying you're in, saying New Mexico. You go to a billboard right here, heading out towards Doñana. If you've been sexually abused by a priest, call this number, And so there's a tremendous amount of evil going on around us right now, guys. And nobody really wants to talk about it except for people like us. And we're actually doing stuff about it too. We really are. And it's not going to change until we all get on the same page and actually push against it, because the more evil that we let into the state, into our land, into our community, the worse it's going to be. So until we actually acknowledge what's really going on around, she doesn't want me doing this. I don't really want to be doing this either. I like working. I like owning businesses and traveling and having fun,
Right.
But
Yeah.
but this is, if someone doesn't step up and do this, there ain't going to be nowhere to travel to. There ain't going to be no fun to be had. It's already getting there. I mean, look at the freaking food prices, for crying out loud. The inflation is there. I've went and had a steak at Sunset Grill yesterday for Mother's Day with a couple of friends of mine, and it was $30 for a basic flat iron steak. A basic flat iron steak. Not even that big, like probably a 6-8 ounce steak. $30, dude.
And that's probably a pretty decent price, really. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very expensive. You're so right.
I don't get how people aren't infuriated by the prices of food these days. It's insane, and it's just getting started. So, and that just speaks to all of us. We're all guilty of it too. We've been enabling these evil people to take over our communities for a very long time, and now we're seeing the repercussions of it. So we really got to start doing something, guys. You got to ask yourself, what are you doing? How are you giving back to the community? Because if you don't start giving back now, it's like Sarah said, there ain't gonna be nothing to give back to.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my little 2 cents on being in New Mexico.
And, get engaged however you can, even if you don't have the time. If you have an hour a week that you can do something, or just talk to somebody, talk to your neighbor or your family member.
Anything. Prayers.
Send this link to this podcast. There's a lot of information. And our next thing that I want to talk about is get an update. We've mentioned the referendum process here in New Mexico, and I was honored and glad to be a part of it. Sarah Smith and
Alice was awesome. The Alices.
The Alices.
And Garcia. Yeah, you
And
guys
Garcia.
have been tremendous working on that project.
Well, we tried very hard, and I also just want to give some kudos as well to Joan Scher.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
you guys were just leading the effort and just very organized. And I've gathered petitions before in Arizona. That's kind of my thing. I mean, I have a list. If I was in Arizona, I got even more signatures. But that's okay, because it was an honor and a great experience. But we're going to have to change stuff on what's happened recently. So I wanted Sarah to give us an update. But you can still make a difference, right?
Yes. So the referendums that Alice is talking about, what we were doing is using the constitutionally protected right for New Mexicans to challenge laws that are passed by the legislature. And that includes the law that we already were talking about, the one about transgender care and abortion care for children. So that's one of the laws that we were trying to challenge. And statewide, we have had thousands of people collecting signatures for this effort for the last year, ever since the laws got passed last year. But the state Supreme Court a few weeks ago ruled that some of these laws are not referendumable. This is pretty interesting because they've basically shown their cards at that point, because what they said made no sense. It doesn't make any sense with the way these laws are and why laws are supposed to be able to be exempted from referendum. They didn't fall into those categories. But the state Supreme Court said you can't. So it's corrupt, obviously, because the decision they made doesn't make any sense. It doesn't go with what we can see in the laws and what's allowed by the state statutes.
I wanted to interject. So if I remember correctly, it was something about, these laws are about safety and public
The
health.
protection of peace, health, and
And I'm
safety.
thinking, well, what law isn't? You
Right.
could apply any single law, and you could take one of those and say, yeah, never mind. And just for my Arizona buddies, in Arizona, we have an initiative process. So what the state of Arizona can do, you can gather enough signatures if you want a law passed, and then it's put on the ballot, and they vote on it. So this is like afterwards, the law's already been passed, but the New Mexico voters, what we were trying to do is get voters to get it on the next ballot, which would have
Yes.
been this November, and then the whole state votes, yay, keep it or lose it.
Right.
Right?
So they could have overturned them. Yeah. But now with the Supreme Court having did what they have done, at this point, we have to find a different direction because they're not going to allow it to happen. They're not going to allow us to get those laws on the ballot, even though we should be able to. And so at this point, we're going to switch and instead work on petitioning the legislators themselves. We already had over 35 to 40,000 signatures for each of these bills. That's a lot.
That's really
a
good.
lot.
It's
In the
powerful.
state of New Mexico
Yeah.
that has just a little over 2 million people.
Yep. It was
You
a
do anything
lot.
you want with that many
A lot of blood,
signatures.
sweat, and tears. So now we are also using an online petition, which is much easier to work with. People can sign it. Anybody who wants to can sign it. And it's really fast and easy. And what will happen is all the signatures that we get for the online petition, as well as all the written signatures we already had, will be given to the legislators for the next session to say, we want you to overturn these laws. Now, one of the questions I had about this was, wait, aren't they the same legislators who passed the laws? And yes, some of them will be, but the thing about New Mexico is this year, every single legislator, all senators and all representatives are going to be on the ballot. All of them. The entire legislature.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. So we could have different people there come January.
Yeah.
So when the next session starts, we might have different people and we can say, look, and we know from the last session, there was a bill, the Family Medical Leave Act was one that was expected to pass. The governor wanted it. It was on her agenda. And this was one that was going to raise taxes for all the New Mexico businesses and the employees. Every single employee in the state was going to have to pay into this fund. And there was a huge public outcry against this. Huge. I mean, we're in this huge time of inflation. Everything costs more, gas, food, everything else. And you're going to try to tax us more right now? Are you kidding? And there was such a huge outcry that 11 Democrats flipped their votes. And it failed.
That's huge. That is huge.
The governor was so mad, she went downstairs and made them do a recall on it, which is
That's illegal.
completely
too, right?
illegal.
That's
Can
illegal.
she do that?
Yeah, she had them call the vote again, which is illegal, and it still failed.
Wow.
So
Good.
that goes to show if enough people do have an outcry, they will do something. They'll listen.
Your voice, especially in an election year.
Yes.
And right now is a great time to start paying attention to what your representative or your state senator is doing. If you live here in New Mexico, if you live anywhere, actually, because find out who's up for election and look at their voting record. You can find the voting record.
Yeah,
It's not
the
that
Rio
hard.
Grande Foundation actually has a really nice thing where you can go look at it. He calls it the Freedom Index, Paul Gessing, and you can look at every single legislator and their votes on all these different bills.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
That's very powerful.
It's a really good
That's
resource.
the Rio Grande Foundation. And what is it called again? Index?
The Freedom Index.
Freedom
So,
Index.
on that note, on the note of outcry, and I want to make a little outcry here. So, as I got here, Alice passed me this Sun News article, which everybody knows Sun News is trash. Anyway, by the way, we hope to probably beat their reach with this show here pretty soon, by the end of the
That's-
year, hopefully.
That's the bulletin, right, that I gave you?
This is Sun News.
Oh, that's a Sun News.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's Peter Goodman, and he's a pretty known far left radical guy, and he's over here. Him and Cynthia Weiss, they're basically who I used to serve on the board along with her as well. And Cynthia Weiss had came after me when we did a FOIA when I was talking about how critical race theory was Marxist, and so her and her little circle there at MSU basically said I wasn't the right kind of Hispanic, because I wasn't on their left agenda. So she has her own little discriminatory inclinations as well, and she describes her time there as dictatorial and hostile as a board member. And I sat right next to her.
Alma de Arte?
Yeah, at Alma de Arte, and I sat right next to her, and it was the only thing that was hostile was the way the parents were treating us, and the way the parents were treating Dr. Amador, just because he wanted to have the kids have a better future. And so I would like to just call out Mr. Goodman for having his priorities misplaced. I mean, all this attention is going to Dr. Amador, for what? I mean, he hasn't really even done anything other than just put up with everyone's crap and throw it at me. And I think he's done a pretty good job at that. Meanwhile, and I say it all the time, and I'm going to go to the school board meeting here pretty soon and talk about this. I'm going to present it to all the school board, like, why is all this attention going to Dr. Amador, all his resources, when we had a principal at Zia Middle School and one of his assistants, one of those other admins, sexually abusing a kid and putting it on Twitter? Did we ever investigate who hired that guy? Did we ever? I mean, we just had another teacher molest some kids at Las Cruces High School too, right? That we were just talking about that.
Yeah.
So we have a systemic problem of child abuse in this school system.
Meanwhile,
And we have this, and they're after Dr. Amador for what? So I'd really like to get a better understanding from the school board as to why they're prioritizing things that, to me, as a parent, as a taxpayer, don't matter. And I want to let them know, in case they didn't know, what's going on at Zia Middle School, what's going on at Cruces High School. And I think it's time that I need to come out. So every time you guys come out after Mr. Amador, I'm going to keep bringing up the Zia Middle School principal, and you guys are going to have to answer for it. So please, I beg you, keep talking about Dr. Amador, because I love talking about the Zia Middle School principal. I do.
well, the other thing is the schools here are absolutely failing the students.
Oh, yeah, let's not forget about that.
If you look at the proficiency ratings, Mayfield High School for this last round of testing, 6% proficiency for math.
No.
Six, not 16.
Oh my
Six.
God.
Not 60.
6%.
That's 10 minus 4.
proficiency.
How can they even stay open?
And then
Right?
and Centennial has the highest, and theirs was like 16 or 18. So the best high school in this town is still running less than 20% proficiency for math. For reading, they're in the like 30 to 35%.
That's not- I don't-
It's pathetic.
I
And
can't
then they're
believe
still
it.
graduating.
I can't believe it.
They're
That's
still
unbelievable.
graduating.
They should only graduate the 18% or whatever they
But
could
they
do
don't
math.
do that.
So what does
because
that mean? You can't even do division?
Yeah, it means you're not proficient. Yeah.
You can't do division.
Yeah.
What's 10 divided by 5, people? Come
Do you
on.
know your times tables?
Yeah, I mean, it's really nuts. But then
Wow.
social promotion is the thing, right? So they've gotten rid of 0 grades. Nobody can get a 0. The lowest is a 40 or 50%.
What?
So if you turn in nothing, you got an
still-
automatic 40 or 50%.
Oh my gosh.
And then this is how they do it. Because if our numbers look really bad, right? There's no other reason to do this. If our numbers look really bad, well, we better make it easier to pass, I guess.
That's an ultimate bogus curve. Remember how you used to grade on the curve? You know, that. Oh, that's just so upsetting. It's
And then the poor
unbelievable.
teachers, because they can't hold back students who are not ready to move to the next grade. So then the teachers are dealing with these kids who don't know what they need to know. The kids who are smart, they're basically left on their own. Like, okay, you take care of yourself. You know, you're not going to get as good as you
long as
could
you
have
read one of these
gotten,
books.
but just keep going.
Well,
and they're trying to get these kids caught up, and that kid keeps going grade to grade to grade. And by the time they get to high school, they're just like totally lost.
That's child abuse, and you know what else I don't like about it? Here in New Mexico, I think if you attend a high school here in New Mexico, and what do you have to make, just an average grade point, you get a free ticket to university, right? You get to go to college.
Free college.
So, you know, back in my day, sound like the old lady here, you used to at least have some knowledge and be at a certain level to attend college. Not everybody could go to college, and it wasn't just because of money. Sometimes you couldn't pass the test to get in. And this is doing so much damage to our kids. It's not fair.
Right.
It's not fair. And I knew a lady in Phoenix, and she made bunches of money because what she did, she had a job at the community college there. And it was South Mountain Community College. And she would teach remedial courses. And I mean, she was in demand because poor kids, they couldn't do, like you say, they couldn't do math and stuff. And that's, you know, and I think Arizona does a little better job than New Mexico, fortunately. But it's criminal what they're doing to the kids.
It is.
It really is.
Well, they're just setting them up for failure. And then we look at the streets and we see all those failures, right? I mean, they're out there. Where did those people come from,
It's
right?
just so bad
The
because
lost ones.
the lockdowns destroyed these kids' social skills, and now they're super dumb. They can't even do math and read. I mean, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
They're going to turn to the streets.
Right.
They have no future.
And the teachers have said, I mean, their social emotional well-being is so messed up at this point. They're running years behind, you know.
God,
High
that's so
schoolers are
sad.
acting like middle schoolers.
Right.
And then I've heard
That's
that this
right.
year's batch of kindergartners are the COVID kids because they're the ones who were in masks when they were toddlers.
So they're probably weird.
Wow.
yeah.
They're probably
yeah. So
super
they have
weird.
so many issues. They don't have any emotional regulation, and it's just
Like kind of like Tourette's probably or something like that.
I don't know. They have a lot of problems because they don't know how
Poor
to control
kids.
themselves. It's awful.
But let's talk about Dr. Amador. You know?
Yeah.
Right. And I went to one of the meetings. I was very impressed with that man. And,
Dude, he's
and people that
super
got
awesome.
up there and talked about different things he did. It sounds like, and the board too, I'm going to give kudos to the board too.
Board was
that's up
great.
there.
What are the parents complaining about?
I don't really even know.
One
That's the fun
lady,
thing.
when we
Yeah,
left,
she knows.
we left the thing, and she was the one. She had a picture of her son, and she was youting. How about it? Come up with a new word.
That's a good word.
Yelling and shouting. She was youting.
Mm-hmm.
And I
like
was
it.
with Juan. Juan could tell you, and started saying about how Dr. Amador had bullied her kid, and I just, I felt sorry for her because she's hurting. Her son had committed suicide. I didn't say anything. But there's so many questions that I had for her. But meanwhile, another parent came and said, that is not the majority. The majority of us parents, our kids love it here. They're doing so good, and they're happy here. So you just never know the whole story, and that's why we like to bring you as much information as possible. And speaking of which, Sarah homeschools. If somebody wants to try to get to homeschool their kids, where would you tell them to start on that? And then the other thing I don't want to forget is to let us know how online we can support the referendum process event.
Okay, so we'll have to, actually, if you go to bettertogethernewmexico.org, you can link directly from there. Actually, or notmykidnm.org will take you straight to the petition page too.
Okay, good.
As far
anybody
as
that lives in New Mexico.
anyone who lives in New Mexico can do that. You don't even have to be a registered voter, because we're just petitioning the government. As far as homeschooling is growing like crazy in New Mexico over the last few years compared to 5 years ago. There are so
Amen to
many
that.
activities. I organize a homeschool group. There are several other homeschool groups. There's all kinds of things. There's classes. There's, my kids are in a band class they've been in for a few years, which is awesome.
Her kids
We
are
have a
awesome.
concert.
You've met
My
them.
kids are 14 and 17.
They're super sweet kids.
So-
And they're smart.
So the thing is, with homeschooling in New Mexico, the laws are really good for homeschooling here. All you have to do is tell the state once a year that you're homeschooling.
Makes sense. We're a rural state.
And then say, I'm going to teach my kids. And that's basically all you have to do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
They don't have to get tested or anything by the state.
No, which they shouldn't. I mean, that's kind of the point of homeschooling is you want to get out of the system and do things individualized for your kids.
And how many hours a day do you spend on average with your kids on a homeschool?
A couple.
Probably
2 or 3.
4 hours.
I mean, my
right?
17-year-old at this point, she makes her own curriculum plan for the semester.
kidding me?
And she tracks her hours and she gets her stuff done. She just took the SAT
She's all forming
last
her own
weekend.
school.
Can I hire her to be my assistant?
So, I mean, that's the type of homeschooling that I do in particular is preparing them to be able to guide their own education in high school. And so that's, but
Wow.
not all homeschoolers do it that way, but that's where we're at. And we were just checking in on her homeschooling this last weekend to see where she ended up for this school year. She's read 25 books
Wow.
this year, mostly about American history topics. She's gotten really interested in learning about specific founding fathers.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And that Wild Swans book I was telling you about, the China one, we read that one together as part of her
What?
homeschooling. So we could talk about it. And we read the Communist Manifesto and then the Constitution stuff. So we could say, what's the difference here? What do you see?
Now you gotta do the Good Luck Archipelago now.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared of that one.
That's a big one.
Well, it's just reading these horrendous things really
Wow.
affects you. The Wild Swans, I mean, it was really hard to read about this family and what happened to them and them getting destroyed and the abuse that was happening and all the things that were happening in the Cultural Revolution.
Well, it's good
like-
for existentialism, though. You know what I mean? It's good for self-awareness.
and then reading about all the millions of people that starved. And that's really where communism leads. That's where it has generally led, is millions of people starving.
On that note, on communism and indoctrination, these kids going to school and stuff. So she said her kids basically homeschool themselves at this point. At 17, to homeschool themselves. They spend 3 hours. She didn't even say 4. She said 3 hours. I understood it was
I said
4.
a couple.
She said a couple.
2. This morning we homeschooled for 2 hours. Now my daughter's doing her own independent studies this afternoon, and my son is working on rebuilding an engine.
Wow. I heard 4 hours from another homeschool, proficient family, and these kids are in school for 8-9 hours.
Mm-hmm.
What are they freaking learning? They're not even learning how to read and do math. Meanwhile, these kids are studying with their mom for 2 hours a day, and they're badass building engines and reading like complex books on Chinese communist oppression. Wow, we really got to understand how bad the school system is here, guys. They're not only not learning how to read right, but they're being indoctrinated. They're getting dumber. Their social skills.
Their expectations are so low. And the other thing is teachers,
They're being sexualized.
Parents have told me, my kid has not been assigned to read a single book. They don't read books.
They don't read books.
Wow.
They don't get assigned books like they used to. You'd have to read certain books in your English
Scarlet Letter.
class.
Scarlet
Yes,
Letter.
and then you'd have some discussion of it, report on it, whatever. They're not reading actual books like that now.
So we have the libraries, but they're not even reading books, except maybe these, unfortunately.
Yeah, what is it? It's Pornhub. Our library is a Pornhub now. Freaking pathetic.
Well, I'm so glad that, thank you for contributing to the success of America. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And
God bless
learning
you.
the Constitution also too. You know, did you guys, when I was in school, you had to take a test on the Constitution before you could attend high school, I think it was. Did you still have that requirement?
To take a test on who?
You had to learn the Constitution.
No, hell no.
And then we had to take a test, and if you couldn't pass the test, you couldn't go on to, I think, a ninth grade is when high school started.
Nothing like that.
So they already were taking it down
Yeah, it's gone.
at that point.
I was so
So
dumb when
sad.
I got out of high school. I don't know how I got in the military because the ASVAB is like an IQ test. I scored pretty high on the IQ test. Just inherently pretty smart. My dad's really smart. But when I got out of the military, I was so dumb. I couldn't read. I couldn't do math. I had to go back to remedial education for like 3 years. I had to take high school math and high school reading and writing in community college.
So unfair to you.
You know, it was just what I got. It was it was just what I got.
And thank God you did that and had the tenacity instead of just like, whatever.
It sucked. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. Hanging out with, high school kids. I was a 24-year-old military veteran working at NASA, hanging out with freaking high school kids.
Do you think it was because you were in the military and it kind of saw, hey, I got to do something about it? Or do you think that made a difference?
Yeah, I was dumb in the military too. They almost kicked me out. They did. I wasn't scoring good on a lot of the tests. They actually basically posted a high-level sergeant with me to kick me out of the military because my scores were so bad. And I trained him up, and he was like, man, you're one of the smartest guys I ever met. What the hell's the matter with you? Why aren't you doing good on the test? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I have a learning disability. But once he worked with me and everything, I was one of the highest testers on the base. And so I just needed a little bit of attention, and I did really well. And I still do very well. I have 4 degrees now.
Well, and you had to get your own internal fire ignited.
Correct.
And that's the thing. The
Correct.
schools are killing it in the kids. Like,
Great
they go
point.
to school curious, they want to learn, and then within a few years, they're just like...
Internal fire. I love how you put that.
That's great. Sarah, I want to give you a couple of minutes to speak to our audience. Tell them what you'd like them to hear. We appreciate you so much for coming on today. We'll have you back again. It's a delight. And everything that you do, I can't thank you enough. You're like a superwoman. Yeah, so the audience is yours.
So at the end of the day, we have to turn things around right now. History goes in cycles. It goes in cycles. About every 80 to 100 years, we have a crisis. This has been happening for thousands of years. And so we know that's where we're at right now. We're in the crisis. What we do right now is going to set the stage for the next few generations. And so...
Minimally.
Yeah. But that's how the cycle goes. If you think back, the last one was World War II era. That was the last big crisis.
80 years, yep.
And you had to figure out what's going to come out of this. And so we have to do our part now. We have to fix everything we possibly can now. And then the next generation, they get to rebuild. It's actually exciting if you think about it. When you come out the other side of where we're at right now, they're going to get to build something bigger, something more amazing.
And that's why they're trying to depopulate us, because they don't want anybody left to build anything, They're going to destroy. I mean, that's what it is. The Georgia Guidestones, they've got to get down to 500 million people. They want 96% of us gone. That's their 10 commandments, And they blew those up recently, too, by the way. But yeah, so...
Love that spirit.
It's thank you so much, Sarah. I mean, we don't agree on a lot of stuff. Me and Sarah are friends, or we're colleagues, we're peers, and there's things that we argue about. But at the end of the day, we're both pro-human, and we're both peaceful people, and we both love America, and that's why we're so honored to have her here on the show.
We are. And Zeke, take us out in prayer before...
Yes, absolutely. Lord, thank you so much for bringing us here together. And I just pray that you continue to guide us, Lord, through these crazy times, these evil times that we're in. And just like Sarah says, prepare us for what's going to happen after what we're about to go through. This is a cycle, Lord. And we just are so grateful for having these amazing people fight for our children, fight for our state, because without these courageous people like Alice, like Sarah here, and like myself, and like everyone else who supports us, there would be no hope. We have plenty of hope, and I pray that you continue to give us that fire and to bring more people on board with us so we can do what we need to do for the future of humanity.
Wonderfully said. Amen. Thank you. Until next week, when we decide to do another episode of the Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. My name is Alice Lara, here with the wonderful Sarah Smith, our guest. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Sarah.
we also have...
Me, Zeke Rodriguez. I said it normally.
the Zekinator.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Great. I'm so glad you're here. All right, guys.
Later, guys.
See you next time. Chips
Peace
and
out. We'll
Salsa.
see you next week.